Alright guys, what's up? It's Cog Day. So, been a little while. Well, I just posted like 5 days ago, but it's not important right now. Alright, so welcome back to part 2 of starting Cardfight Vanguard deck building. Part 2, I will be going over the clans. A little brief summary of what each one of them do, and this will hopefully help you make your decision on what clan you want to build. Now, before we get started, I want to discuss the imaginary gift mechanic. It's pretty simple. You have 3 gifts and 2 of each type. So you have Force, Excel, Protect. Force is basically more of a in the middle, Protect is defensive, Excel is offensive. Force 1s go on Vanguard or Rearguard circle, give that unit plus 10, it stacks. Force 2 goes on Van or Rear, and it gives an extra crit, does not stack. Excel 1 gives you an extra Rearguard circle, plus 10 to the unit placed there. Excel 2, extra Rearguard circle, plus 5, draw. Protect 1, basically a sentinel. Protect 2 gives an extra plus 5 on Rearguard, and intercept shield. And then when the unit intercepts, shield goes up by 10. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let us go into our list. So, this is just going to go in order from like United, Dragon Empire, stuff like that. I'm not going in the order of like what clans are in which one. If you want to do more research on to a clan that you think would fit you, feel free. Alright, let's get started. Royal Paladins. Royals rely on calling units from the deck to gain skills and power-ups, mostly like extra power, sometimes critical. It all depends on the deck. Shadows are basically the edgy teenage versions of the Royals that never seem to grow out of it. And they're the exact opposites. They rely on retiring your rear guards to gain skills for the boss units, and on occasion, make your opponent retire. Golds, aka the Gold Paladins, they rely on calling units from the top X number of cards from the deck, and that's usually done during the battle phase, which is really annoying to go up against, trust me. OTT, or Oracle Think Tank, relies mainly on mass drawing cards and stacking the deck in your favor. Genesis uses Equip Gauge, which lets you put a unit face down under it, or force markers depending on the variant you're building, and sometimes lets you stack, but that's few and far in between. Angel Feather. Basically, angels mess around with the damage zone, and you get skills from having units in there, maybe calling them to the field, switching them out with other units, etc., etc. All extra power increases. Kagero, aka the Overlord clan, basically they rely on retiring units and restanding the Vanguard for more attacks. Morikumo, they rely on calling units with the same name from deck to field and getting boosts when you do that. Tachikaze also uses the Equip Gauge mechanic, but it's a lot more involved. And they also retire units to get skills from that. Narukami binds units to gain skills. That's basically all there is to them. Nubatama allows you to like bounce cards, copy skills if it's a Shiranui, and a whole bunch of other random bullshit. Aquaforce. Aquaforce relies on gaining skills and restands after a certain number of battles have commenced. a lot of times they're real scary to face, and they're able to hit some pretty crazy things, especially with the newest support that came out in Storm of the Blue Cavalry. Grand Blue. Grand Blue relies on milling cards from your deck and calling units from the drop zone. Some units even get extra power for having cards in drop. Example, Skull Dragon gets plus 2,000 times the number of cards in your drop zone. So if you have 30, you're getting like 72,000. If I did the math right, yeah. Bermuda Triangle. They use the melody keyword to share skills and abilities that they get a lot more power than they probably should. Dark Regulars. Dark Regulars rely on soul charging, which is the stack of cards under the vanguard. I'll go more into detail with this, in my the game flow type video. But they rely on having a certain number of cards in deck for skills to go off. Pale Moon. Pale Moon also soul charges, but they use more of like a hit and run style tactic. So they'll be jumping in and out from the soul in order to attack. They'll go back in, you call something else out, and then you repeat the process until your opponent rage quits. Gear Chronicle. Now they kinda are like Narukami, but their skills rely on having a certain number of cards bound instead. So, let's say you have 19 cards bound, you might get a one skill, whereas if you have 20, it's another. Spike Brothers. Spike Brothers rely on calling rear guards to boost the power of the whole field. And I believe it's after they attack, you can put it in the soul to call another unit with the same name. Don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. Neonectar. Neonectar relies mainly on calling tokens out and getting skills off of that. So, it's a really interesting concept. Mega Colony. Mega Colony prevents your opponent from restanding their units and basically controlling how they do their turn. Gridor, especially with the cradle markers, is very annoying to go up against. Great Nature. Great Nature relies on retiring units to gain skills and milling the top card of the deck, and depending on what it is, a certain skill will go off. Normally, if you mill a trigger, that will be the stronger skill because triggers are stronger than normal units most times. Nova Grappler. Nova Grappler relies on restanding units during the battle phase in order to get extra attacks and give more pressure to the opponent. Dimension Police. Dimension Police has a lot of units that will help boost the Vanguard's power and possibly give it extra critical. And I think I'm not very familiar with DP, but I'm pretty sure they can restand sometimes. And then Link Joker relies on binding cards face down, and depending on your variant, you'll focus on, for example, deleters, deleting the Vanguard, Messiah, locking, and for Starhulk, trigger backfire.